topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Well, good afternoon. Well, it's time to follow our money, okay? How are the feds handling our money? We're holding them accountable as we check out Open the Books. Rachel O'Brien going to be joining us here in just a few moments. Every dime online in real time. This is what accountability looks like at Open the Books, and it's not easy because you got to know the feds, like just about anybody else, doesn't like it when you're looking into their checkbook. They think it's their checkbook. They don't realize it's the people's checkbook because it's the people's money. Because after all, this is a government of, for, and by we the people, right? Won't you agree? Well, Rachel O'Brien, as I mentioned, she's the deputy public policy editor, investigative journalist for openthebooks.com, and she joins us right now. Let's bring Rachel on.
Hi,
Rachel.
Bill.
Hey, how you doing, Rachel? Good to have you with us. We're going to hold them accountable, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, every dime online. I love that at openthebooks.com. All right. So we got several things to look at. On top of the list is $200 million in federal grants going to illegals. So why should we worry, right?
Yes. No, illegal immigrants aren't getting any federal money, right? Wink, wink.
No.
This is what we've been told. Just trust us. So we looked into it, of course. This was a very easy one. We simply did a search for the word undocumented in grant descriptions. Mm-hmm. And we found $200 million worth of grants going to healthcare-related projects. And so this is sort of just the tip of the iceberg. So these are grants for healthcare research and programming, again, with that word undocumented in the grant description. There's likely much more grant spending. That's hard.
Yeah, you got to believe in it. I mean, look at how arrogant. They're not even trying to hide it anymore, yeah. Rachel.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and this doesn't even include the $27 billion in federal that the federal government and state government spend on Medicaid services between fiscal year 2017-2023. They provide emergency Medicaid services. For people who are ineligible for full Medicaid coverage because of their immigration status, so $27 billion there. It doesn't include education spending that benefits illegal immigrants and their children. That amounts to $70 billion annually. This is just a tiny portion that we were able to pull together.
Yeah, and why should we, the people, be upset over that, especially when we're looking at what did we surpass now? $38 trillion in debt?
Right. Well, what's $200 million there when you're trillions in debt? I mean, and these projects are projects that could go to other populations. For instance, there was one grant for $4.3 million to Stanford. That was to study people who California put in a pilot to test universal basic income. Right. So California has a group, I believe it was 2,000 people. They were giving universal basic income, just money, just checks right to people. And some of that were to illegal immigrants. And so Stanford has $4.3 million to study how that money can impact cancer risk. UCLA, they got $2.5 million to study reproductive health care among Asian immigrant women, including undocumented. $1 million to the University of Miami to study this one. Really threw me. This was to study culturally relevant interventions for drunk driving. They argued that undocumented immigrants were less likely to understand DWI laws. They're more likely to binge drink and less likely to perceive the associated risks. So University of Miami is studying that population.
And probably less likely to understand the signs of the road, as we're finding.
Of course, if you can't read it, sure. So that's all from the National Institutes of Health. This is all, health funding. And there's so much more. I mean, $4 million went to Southern LA County to build a medical wellness center for low-income minorities, refugees, and undocumented. another 2.5 million in East LA for a community health center, including a drug rehab primarily for Latino adults, including those undocumented, another $1 million in LA for primary care services for minority, low income, Latino homeless and undocumented. In NYU Langone hospitals in New York City, they have a new cancer center there, again, serving a population that's very large, foreign born with many undocumented. And there's many, many more examples.
Well, and the thing is that every time you mention California, like as if they've been so fiscally responsible and they've been out of whack at every turn. And so here we are, 49 of the other states are supporting California. I mean, they're like, they're like the poor cousin in the family that is constantly in need of money.
Yeah.
And you just, you get to the point where you resent Thanksgiving or any holiday parties that brings them into the fold because, they're going to be coming with hat in hand.
That's right. And out of this chunk that we found, that the 200 million, California, of course, they got the most funding. They got 66 million since fiscal year 2021. Florida is in second place. They got 26 million, DC 22 million, and New York 17 million. So, and I should say that of this 200 million, most of it did go to programs providing direct services. 158 million went to actual, services versus scientific research. So there was some scientific research they were using this for, and most of it came from the Department of Health and Human Services. So, next time someone tells you illegal immigrants don't get any federal money, you'll know the truth.
Well, keep in mind, it was never the vision of our founding fathers to be getting into all these little projects like this, right? And what spurs it on, at least what I'm able to understand, Rachel, and you as an investigative researcher and reporter may have found the same thing, is that I'm looking at how much of this money went to, in actuality, buy votes.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you're if you're looking to vote based on who's going to give you something for it, absolutely, pandering to a population like immigrants, in this case specifically undocumented immigrants who should not be voting, right? Should not be able to vote. You're gonna say this particular politician or in California's case, almost all of them are working to get funding for projects that benefit me and my family and my community. Absolutely.
Right. I mean, it's always, as even Nancy Pelosi said, it's quid pro quo. I mean, she was raised on that ever since she was 7 years old, sneaking into, I think it was her father's mayoral office. And in fact, I think at one time, anecdotally, they reported that she even got on the phone and negotiated the deal, basically just said to the guy, okay, what's in it for us if we do this for you? I mean, this is the corruption of the government. And it's been going on for so long, it's become such a tradition that it's acceptable. Well, how does $38 trillion in debt and just the interest alone is now surpassing our military budget? How does that feel for you?
Yeah, no, it's obviously terrible, right? When we're talking about healthcare spending, it's a huge problem. Medicare and Medicaid alone, those are grossly overspent, not just for actual benefits, but in terms of fraud as well. And in terms of improper payments, Medicare and Medicaid are always the culprit for the largest figure of improper payments every year. I think it was 87 billion last year. I have to double check that number, but they're always number one, right? There's reason for that.
Well, and Doge did some, research, and of course everybody was yelling and screaming about it. But, look, at the truth is the truth. And I was watching the other day, Elon Musk was just going down, when he was talking about Social Security. How many people with birth dates that they haven't even officially been born, but believe it or not, miraculously, they are receiving Social Security benefits. And I mean, we're not talking one or two, as you say. I mean, we're talking millions adding into billions of dollars. And the government just is kind of yawning over this, as opposed to saying, wait a minute, this is the people's money. This is, grossly egregious to the taxpayer to do this and put this burden upon them. And then on top of that, well, let's shut down the government and deprive them of needed services on top of that, right?
Right. No, yeah, it's it's certainly a shame, and it's one of the reasons why we highlight this every year. We talk about improper payments. That should be something that people should be able to agree on immediately. That shouldn't be a partisan issue at all. If you eliminate the hundreds of billions of dollars in improper payments every year that go to people for the wrong amount for the wrong reason, or to the wrong person, that right there, saves you so much money that can go to so many other things. But it's all getting wasted, and there doesn't seem to be any interest in fixing that.
And Rachel, what's the chance of clawing that money back once it goes out to these people? They spend the money, so what are you going to do? Put them in jail?
A small portion gets clawed back every year, but you're right. It's spent. Again, if it went to the wrong person for the wrong amount or for the wrong reason, sometimes the records aren't even accurate. They don't even know who got the money. In some cases, the records themselves can't even tell you who to go after, and so. That's obviously, you can't claw back money from someone you don't know who has it.
I mean, how is this acceptable? I mean, why? I don't understand why the people just aren't screaming out of their windows every night, yelling at the government, saying, wait a minute, stop. This is absurd. I mean, we are, basically we're fooling ourselves. We're basically broke, but we're fooling ourselves because we do everything through data and through, made up paper and adding another decimal point, it's like no big deal, right. Kind of thing. But it's like, this is unsustainable. I mean, we're really leaving ourselves open on so many levels. I mean, even now, the dollar, which has been under attack for a long time, which has been the choice of currency around the world, you've got other powers that are encroaching on that because of, our lack of efficiency and what it says about our government. I mean, how dare us? It's like we have no moral high ground to stand against these other third world countries, supposedly the way they conduct business, when the United States is almost as bad, if not worse.
Right. Absolutely. It's a real problem. And that is why we at Open the Books are so passionate about what we do. It's to put this information out there. You asked, why aren't people shouting from their windows and demanding changes? I think a lot of people don't know how bad it is. They don't want to know, right? A lot of people, I think, feel helpless, like they don't know what they can do about it, right? It's election day tomorrow in many places, and you can go and vote, but you kind of sort of feel helpless. Like, what am I supposed to do about it? Well, pay attention. Start by going to your local school board meetings. Some of these meetings that I've attended as a local news reporter in the past, nobody attends them. And so the school boards don't expect anyone to ask any questions. They feel they're not accountable to anyone. Go to your town board meeting or your city council meeting or your county board meetings and start asking questions.
Exactly.
And know where this money is going. And that's why we put it out there on our website for people to be informed.
Thank God. And I've said this forever, for Open the Books. What was started decades ago with your original founder, and then, subsequently with the leadership that followed and where you are right now. I mean, thank God for all the great work that you've been doing. And, we have been coming alongside and supporting and wanting to be an information arm, for Open the Books, to make sure that our audience is informed and they're aware of what's going on. Is that, their lying eyes and their own gut instincts is telling them the truth. And that is that our government is inefficient. What Elon Musk, produced in terms of some receipts early on. And of course, the reaction, particularly on the left, I mean, that tells you everything you need to know, is that the forces are strong. They're diligent. They're not about to give up, the goose that's laying golden eggs for them. This is what has kept them in office. Absolutely. And it's what has put a lot of pressure on we the people, and why we're producing a government with this kind of inefficiency and this kind of corruption.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We're talking all the time about the changes that Congress needs to make, the bills they need to pass. Why would they take money out of their own hands? And
Right.
so it's unfortunately, one of these things. It's not going to change as long as Congress, has the choice to say yes or no to that change. And we did see a little bit with DOGE, right? Again, coming in and making those changes without Congress. But you do need Congress because every administration can just come in and erase what the previous administration did if it's not codified, if it's not in law, if they're allowed to just go back and all of the spending cuts they made last session, they can bring those all back. And so, yeah, I mean, it does start with reform with Congress. And so it does start at the voting booth, right? To elect those.
Exactly. And we got to stay on top of it, remain vigilant, because it's bad enough that you have, Congress at times. And I understand, look at, realistically, they're in a tough situation because this government's too big. It has grown. It is an immense behemoth that they're trying to run here. But they need to have this sense of discipline and urgency to codify this so that it minimizes the radical activist judges who are now interfering in the process, right?
Well, sure. Right. Exactly. You do. While there's lack of action from Congress, then we do see more action, again, like you said, from these judges who are weighing in on things they never used to weigh in on. And of course, deciding how our country is run, really in many instances because Congress won't act. And so, right, there's a lot of reform that's needed. Unfortunately, it's not an overnight thing that can be solved. And, it starts with, the younger generation, right? Where one of the things that we did recently was a report on students and student performance. I mentioned school boards and going to your school board meetings and asking questions there about what the school district is doing. If our own students are not performing well, they certainly can't compete with China. They certainly aren't going to be informed enough to vote, to make solid voting choices at the booth. They're going to just vote based on party, or they're going to vote based on maybe who they think is cool. If it was someone who was endorsed by, a performing artist or something like that. And so we just did this report on America's public education crisis.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, it's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, it all comes down to education when we're talking about the where our country is headed. So, the debate about public school funding sometimes includes the assumption that more funding means better student outcomes. And so we challenged that, and we looked at thousands of school districts and found that as pay for teachers and administrators increased, students' test scores dropped on standardized tests. Right. We looked at almost 13,000 school districts, and we came to this conclusion. We compared the 2019 payroll to the 2023 payroll for teachers and administrators in each state. And of course, there's an increase in pay everywhere. Right. But at the same time, the change in each state's ranking by the National Assessment of Educational Progress, they measure reading and math skills for 4th and 8th graders. Those dropped in many cases. Right. We found that, while many schools hope that increasing their payroll will help their students perform better, there's little evidence in the data to support that claim. In fact, the opposite seems to be true. On average,
because the money didn't go into the classroom, Rachel.
Exactly right.
It went to the administrators.
That's exactly right. The payrolls go up, but it is not associated with higher test scores for those students. They're not seeing the impact of that spending. That's exactly right.
And this has been going on for decades. This isn't something, you looked at 2019, but I dare say go ahead and run a line over the last 3 decades and start watching that dynamic, because as the administrative forces or the administrative line of public education has grown, you start seeing the test scores reflecting it, and a not positive direction, by the way.
Yeah, no, we actually went back to 1950.
You did go back. Okay,
yeah,
good. Okay.
It's referred to as administrative bloat. So the number of administrators at American schools increased by over 700%.
700% to dumb down our kids.
From 1950 to 2009. And in that same time, the number of teachers increased to 150%. And of course, during that time, student scores on the national assessments fell. So in more modern day, from 2010 to 2022, the number of administrative staff, that rose by 41% on top of the 700. So now we're at 741%, right?
Right.
And overall school employment only rose by 10%. So you have this administrative bloat of these people who are, of course, very highly paid. In 2023, there were over 8,800 public school employees across the country who earn salaries of at least $200,000. Those are certainly not teachers. Those are administrators. And in many cases, those are administrators that are not really having an impact on students learning in the classroom. In many cases, they're not even school principals or superintendents. In many cases, they're sort of these new positions that you would not have heard of even 10 years ago. Baltimore is a perfect example. Baltimore in 2019, their test scores ranked 22nd among the 25th largest cities. So they were 3 from the bottom.
Right.
So they're ranked 22nd. By 2024, they had increased their salaries by 43%. They still ranked 22nd. And so we looked at their payroll, that less than half of their employees, just about almost half of their employees are listed as teachers or principals. The other half are administrators, some in very similar roles. There's the senior executive director of equity making $214,000. There's also a director of equity, a director of equity-centered principal development. There are 5 educational specialists of equity. There's a staff associate of equity. There are directors of environmental health there in Baltimore, each earning over $160,000. There's a senior project manager of environmental compliance, a supervisor of environmental compliance, all making high 6 figures. So these are not positions that are helping students. Students aren't, they're not learning to read or to write or to do math based on the hiring of any of these people. And they continue, school districts just continue to do this, continue to hire these
It's a total scam, Rachel. I mean, they would not pass the so what test in the open marketplace. Their business model would not last. But because it's a government entity and they're able to get away with this, I mean, they go DEI deep, they're into environmental issues and everything else. And of course, bringing in pornography into the classroom. I mean, it's like, have we lost our minds?
Yeah. No, I mean it's
who's watching them? I mean, who are they accountable to?
You do see, and that's why we say all the time, like as I said earlier, go ask questions to your school board, stand up at these meetings and demand answers to whether it's curriculum or spending or hiring. They are accountable.
But they don't think so.
They don't think so.
I mean, you see sometimes where they're arresting parents. I mean, so yes, go and you may just have to listen and it may be hard but be careful because they feel some sense of empowerment.
Yeah,
and what they're doing to parents is absolutely disgusting. But it starts, first of all, just as you said, it starts with knowledge. That's power. You got to understand what they're doing, and your lying eyes, they're not lying to you. I mean, the fact that these pornographic books, that they even try to bring them to school board meetings and to read what's in the libraries that their kids can be exposed to, and then they don't even want to hear it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is, of course, that's one thing one issue among many issues, right?
Right. Yeah, but it's all symptomatic of the problem that exists. And we're only talking education. Yes, we talked about some other things, but it's a consistent model of incompetency and acceptance here.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, of course. Especially in we're talking about administrators and administrative bloat, But of course, teachers and teacher unions are incredibly powerful. It's incredibly difficult to get, you know, a tenured teacher removed. And they know that. They know that they are protected and they sort of can do, to a degree, you know, what they want. You know, just going back to the data, when we were looking at, there were some success stories. While we saw, you know, 6 states increase their payroll by at least 23% in the time period we were looking at from 2019 to 2023, Virginia, Vermont, Oregon, Missouri, they all saw student performance decrease, and New Mexico saw no change. Only Utah moved up very slightly in the rankings, but we saw the converse in some cases. Miami-Dade County Public Schools in Florida, they had the second best exam scores in 2024, and they spent just about $6,400 on payroll per student. It's the 5th lowest among 2025 cities. Among the 25 largest cities, also in Florida, Hillsborough County, those students, they had the 5th best exam scores among those cities, and the district only spent $5,300 on payroll per student. That's the 2nd lowest. So
it can be done, right, Rachel? That's what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah. It can work. Yeah, and it's, you know, it's because those districts are investing in the right things, right? Just increasing the dollar figure of what you're spending per student means nothing, and we know that. We see that where I am in New York, in New York City, we have the highest, if not one of the highest, if not the highest, spending per pupil on students in New York City. And a huge portion of students can't read or write at their grade level. So, you know, I think at what point are people going to say, don't talk to me about spending per pupil? It's a nonsense way of measuring success. I don't care how low the spending per pupil is. What are you spending it on? Are you spending it on these administrators, the director of equity, the assistant director of equity, the senior executive director of equity? If so, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for students and what they can achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can't attach it to a matrix that has a direct effect on results, then it needs to be gone.
Right.
You know, this isn't about warm and fuzzies. You know, this is about producing a bottom line here. And then, you know, you speak that you're there in New York. I mean, I was just, again, seeing this morning that in Queens alone, you got 160 different languages that are spoken in the borough there.
Absolutely.
Rachel, how do you teach these kids with that kind of language differentiation? When I was in California, we were in a community that was mostly Hispanic, about 70%. And, you know, all it took was 2 kids in the classroom to occupy the teacher's time. And then the rest of the kids were, you know, left to their own devices because the teachers had to spend more time with the 2 kids that couldn't speak English.
Yeah, that's the perfect example of where, you know, districts and even portions, neighborhoods of districts, like New York City is all one large school district. So you're talking about Queens in particular, right? There has to be a very large, and there is, but there should be a large investment in these ESL classes, English as a second language class, right? So that the students who have English as their primary language are being taught, and then those who are not, who don't have English as their first language, are being, you know, taught properly, and nobody's sort of getting left behind there, either the English language students or those who are learning English. Yeah, I mean, New York, we are ranked, I believe, 31st from the National Association of the Educational Association that ranks the largest cities and then states. So talking about New York State, we're ranked 31st. California is ranked 43rd.
Yeah.
And when you look at how people are paid, California has about 2,800 employees who made $200,000 or more in the schools. New York has about 1,500 people making $200,000 or more in the schools. And again, it's just, you see this metric all the time about per pupil spending, and how states or school districts need to raise their per pupil spending. And it is really just a red herring for what really needs to be done to help these students. Nothing's ever going to be accomplished if you keep going back to the same well over and over again and not looking at the real problem.
Well, again, what Open the Books is bringing to the front here, ladies and gentlemen, are the receipts. And is this okay with you? Is this acceptable? I mean, this generation that we're raising right now, I mean, the odds are against us. This is also, Rachel, why when we talk about education, why so many people are homeschooling these days.
Right. You have a homeschooling increase. You also have an increase in charter schools and parochial schools, states that give out vouchers for those things, for either for charter schools or homeschooling, are incredibly popular. Especially those that are limited. They're gone immediately. You have these wait lists of people looking to get vouchers to get their kids out of public schools, and it's a very, instead of the teachers unions saying, what can we do to improve our schools, how can we better serve our students and help them learn better, they're fighting, right? They fight these voucher programs, they fight the creation of charter schools, they fight they fight it tooth and nail, and that's obviously not the way to help students.
Well, it's about their survival, not the students. The priorities are off, and that's unfortunately is the nature of how the union works, and it's about survival for them. It's not about the kids. So they're upside down in their priority. Absolutely. And this is why there's so much pressure now and conversation about dismantling, the public education system. I mean, it's not in the Constitution. We should, on all levels, Rachel, things we touched on, whether it's healthcare, immigration, America can do better than this, but we can't do better if the interest is for, a politician, a political interest, and not for the interest of the immigrant who comes here, that basically comes here illegally. We got millions of illegals coming into the country, so they operate in the shadows. I mean, how is that successful for them? I mean, they have to rely on a sanctuary state, and then what they're finding out is as the nets are going out to get these people, the good, the terrible immigrants who've come in with felonies and what have you, and have killed American citizens and all. Well, then these people are caught up in the net, and everybody's upset. But, even, our Homeland Security is saying 70% of those caught are felons. Yes, there's going to be 30% that are caught in that you might say, well, they're not as bad. Well, but you broke the law. You came here illegally. We don't want you to be here illegally. We want you to be here to be a legal citizen so that you can contribute, that your children, your future family can be a part of this incredible mosaic of human potential and energy and success that we call the United States of America.
Right. And of course, and the back to our whole, what we do at Open the Books is the spending associated with all of it.
Yes.
Right. So, it's one thing to promise all of these wonderful things that America has to offer. And America has a lot of wonderful things to offer. And it is a country of immigrants, right? We are a country of immigrants. We all came from somewhere else, legally, of course, right? And so that's, of course, the distinction here. And it's one of the reasons why we do have such debt and spending out of control, because, as you mentioned earlier, the country was never intended by the founders to do, or the federal government was never intended to do all the things that it does and pay for all the things that it does, right?
Well, they're writing checks on our backs. They're not paying for anything. Right. I mean, if it was their money, it'd be a different ball game altogether. But it's our money, and so they can make promises, do whatever, and their policies are what has created this environment of inaffordability that we're dealing with, that you're dealing with, particularly in New York. I mean, my friend Liz Peek, who's Fox News contributor, she's telling me, and you could verify it, that a one bedroom in New York is now $5,000 a month. That's how do you afford that?
No, you don't, right? And that's why there's people flee New York for other states. Florida is the number one place where you will find transplanted New Yorkers the Carolinas.
Yeah, we welcome. By the way, I'm in Florida now. I've been here for 14 years. We welcome people from New York, but we say leave that New York state of mind and the politics back at the border. Do not bring it here. Because we operate a little bit differently, as you cited. I mean, we have a successful track record with education. Managing the illegal immigration situation. All things considered, I mean, it's hard for anybody to get a deluge of illegal immigrants and find a way to manage it perfectly. But Ron DeSantis and our officials here are pretty vigilant about these things to make sure that, they're being wise and prudent about the people's money.
Right. One of the things that, as I mentioned earlier about Medicare and Medicaid being the worst spender of improper payments, and what was the figure I think I gave in terms of illegal immigrants getting that spending from Medicaid, or I think it was
I think it's 42. I think it's 42.
Oh, here we go. 27 billion. There's $27 billion on emergency Medicaid services, right, for those who are here, illegally. That's not to say that we can't blame illegal immigrants for everything, right? This is a problem we created on our own.
No, you're exactly right. I don't blame the people. I mean, look if I was outside and I thought, hey, I was outside America and I wanted to do something for my family, and you had an administration that says, hey, buenvenidos, right. We got T-shirts, we got Obama phones, we'll take care of you. Hey, I'm on the boat, I'm on the plane, I'm whatever it is for the sake of I don't blame them. But the fact of the matter is that, we had irresponsible governance,
right?
And shame on them. And we're having to clean all this mess up.
Yeah.
And in the midst of a very divided government, instead of just looking at this problem and saying, we've got to do right by everybody, by the citizen, by the immigrant, and if we do that, then it'll be win-win. But, right now they're not ready to really deal with this in a responsible way, because that's not the way our government works, unfortunately.
Right. Yes, we have a larger issue with these safety net programs. We have a larger issue with mandatory spending, especially healthcare spending in the U.S. It's grossly inefficient and wasteful. We recently did a report where we looked at Medicare Part D, just one small portion of Medicare. This is the prescriptions. And what it's costing taxpayers for prescriptions under Medicare Part D. For sure, people are not paying this out of their pocket. They're certainly not paying it when they have private insurance. So, we looked at just the top 1,000 prescribing doctors, and in 2023, they wrote $11 billion worth of prescriptions.
Whoa.
We saved $9 billion on the July rescission package. So it doesn't even cover 1 year of Medicare prescriptions. So tackling something like that, obviously, again, is one of these very large issues that you can't solve overnight, but is worth attacking.
I've long said, look at Obamacare, supposedly the affordable health care. What a misnomer that was. That was like, this whole ruse that Biden tried to sell us on, the Inflation Reduction Act. And I mean, all these things, the Democrats speak, double speak. What they tell you it is the exact opposite. As long as you realize what they're telling you and it's the exact opposite, you'll maintain some sanity. Otherwise, you're going to get brain bruised in the process, because that has been consistent with them. Is what they tell you one way, it's not. It's the exact opposite. And so the affordable health care, we knew from the very beginning, anybody that had half a brain could do some math, said this is not going to pencil out. And it hasn't. All for supposedly 30 million people that were part of that donut hole. And I've been asking the question all these years. Oh gosh, shame on me for doing this, but inquiring minds, want to know. And my question is, and I ask all these officials, I go, so of the 30 million that you estimated, that you kept quoting time and time again, how many of them are still on Obamacare? How many of them actually went to Obamacare? Well, we know Obamacare, what did it get up to? About 8 million, maybe 12 million people. So it barely made a dent And most of the people, the 30 million that they said, there was a lot of those people just said, I don't want your stinking health care.
Right.
You know? And so, I mean, this whole deal was such a farce, and it was built on lies. And now here it is. I mean, it's so affordable and such a great plan that it requires government subsidy. And it's one of the reasons why our government is closed right now.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I was just going to say to bring it back to where we are now. Right. That's why the government is closed over the debate of this program that is not certainly not worth closing the government over.
Well, Rachel, I maintain, whether it's healthcare, Medicaid that we're talking about, education, go down the line, immigration, we're better than this. And if you got people together, I mean, it's almost like I want to say, I don't even want politicians involved. We're going to have, a normal group of citizens get together in a room and design a world-class, healthcare program, and we're going to negotiate. I mean, as Trump's been doing, he's negotiating, drug prices. He did that, before he left office. Of course, we were able to realize benefits that Joe Biden said, see what I've done for you? Going, you didn't do that. That was Trump. You just happened to be in office. So you get to claim some sort of credit, but it was Donald Trump that did that. You don't know how to negotiate those things. But Trump has been continuing to negotiate drug prices, but that's only part of the elements of what needs to be dealt with. And you got to get all these middlemen, these what are they called? Benefit PBMs or something, managers.
Managers, sure.
Yeah, they get a special cut out of everything. For what? They didn't do anything, but they're just in the middle collecting money like trolls.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the 1,000 doctors that we looked at with these prescriptions that cost $11 billion. Oh, absolutely. I mean, these are moneymakers. The top prescriber in 2023 was responsible for $160 million worth of drugs paid by Medicare Part D.
Right.
The second person was responsible for $137 million. The reason you said, what would happen if we got regular people in a room and asked them to design these things, of course it would look far different from what we have here. What we have is, from years of having special interests and lobbyists and donors and industry impacting how our government is run, and it is certainly not how the founders would have expected it to be, and it is certainly something that every American should be aware of and should read about and learn about and go to openbooks.com and see what we're reporting, and you'll be shocked every day what you see that we've written, that we've investigated, all through public records, by the way. This is all spending that the federal government and state government and local governments are required to report. This is your money. They're required to tell you how they're spending it. And so, we make it digestible so people can be informed and maybe come up with some good ideas to pitch to the government for once.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Rachel makes it seem so easy. It's not easy because the resistance is thick, it's long, and they're well practiced. There's all kinds of FOIA requests that are involved. You got to go to the courts to get this information. Open the books. Hey, I'm here. I'm with Open the Books. It's almost like they slam the door in their face. They don't want to talk to them because they know, they're there to find out the information, which we're entitled by our Constitution. They owe us this information. And Open the Books, God bless them. And God bless, Tom Coburn, Adam Andrzejewski, the team over the years, John Hart now, yourself, Rachel, everybody that's involved in holding to the cause on behalf of the American people. Because if not you, then who?
Well, thank you, Bill. That's very kind of you. And
well, I'm honest about it. I mean, going back to the Coburn years and everything and just seeing what was going on. I mean, it was just, to me, it just is so much common sense.
Right.
But what's happened over the years, because of all the work that you've done, it exposes the fraud, the delinquency, the corruption, and the American people. Look, if you want to have an America that your great grandchildren can enjoy, your grandchildren can enjoy, you've got to take a stand and say enough is enough, because this is a government of, for, and by we the people. And guess what? It's not reflecting that credo that is in our Declaration of Independence or our Constitution, is it?
No, and you mentioned Senator Coburn. Absolutely. He helped found Open the Books. And he was one of those unique people who refused to just go along to get along. He put up a fight against everything that he believed was wrong. The wrong spending, the wrong programs, the wrong way to do it. And he was a man all unto himself. He was certainly unique. Joni Ernst, Senator Ernst, is similar in her fight to say, we're not going to just continue funding this. We're not going to increase the spending. This isn't something that should be funded to begin with. This is wasteful or fraudulent or abusive. And unfortunately, they are very few and far between. And there need to be more Senators Coburn and Senator Ernst in Congress. We need more of those people.
Well, without a doubt, we need to increase the megaphone and the pronouncement. And it's up to we the people to make those changes, to get the right people in there so that we can have an efficiently run government. And look, this is not easy. This has been going on for decades. They're well entrenched, as you realize. And for them to, without any kind of conscience whatsoever, to run up a bill of $38 trillion and just kind of shrug over it and just go, well, we just, just because America keeps, it just keeps on living doesn't mean that it will always be this way, right?
Well, I hope not. In terms of spending out of control, I hope not. There has to be some end to it. We can't keep borrowing from China, which we are doing, right? We can't keep kicking the can down the road. We say our children will pay for it. It's not just our children, it's our grandchildren and our great grandchildren.
Exactly. We're borrowing from them. They're not even born yet.
Not even born yet.
I mean, and
my
the
son
deal
is 3
is
years old, and I've borrowed from his children.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're not even getting Social Security checks. It's the other people somehow, with the right, I guess, birth date or whatever scam they've been able to work. And like Elon Musk says, has anybody even called them to say, hey, we may have the wrong birthday here. What is your right birthday? It can't be 3010. I'm sorry. There must have been a typo or something. Help me understand why you're getting a check. Right.
Yeah, we've seen this, especially with the COVID-19 funding, during the pandemic that was given out so freely, no questions asked, PPP loans, money to businesses that don't exist, to people that don't exist. And if Social Security checks can be given to people who are long dead or who have yet to be born, clearly there's a little bit of record keeping that needs to be done here. It's very basic stuff, right? It is very upsetting when you think about the lack of care that is taken when overseeing our money. There's no care in making sure that money is being spent prudently. You certainly wouldn't act that way with your money. You certainly wouldn't hand it out to anybody who asks, right? If someone calls you and asks for money and claims to, you owe them a bill, you want some proof. You want to see a bill. What is it for? What did I buy? What did it go to? Right?
Exactly.
And there's no similar responsibility taken when it comes to American taxpayer money.
Well, Rachel O'Brien, we got to leave it there. I'm thankful for you. And as I mentioned, Open the Book, she's a deputy public policy editor, investigative journalist for openthebooks.com. As we wrap things up, I'm going to give you the final word. We got about a minute left. Bring us home and encourage the people what they can do to activate and stay in touch. And knowledge is power. And you've got a lot of information that will empower the everyday American right there at openthebooks.com. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, our website, we have a newly revamped website. We've been around for over a decade now, but you can go to our website and find your state or your municipality. You can search for the companies that have been paid by your city or your state. You can know who's getting paid. You can know what the payroll is of public employees. And so there's a lot of great detail on our website. Also our Substack, substack.openthebooks. That's where we post our long form writing. Check it out. And I hope people find it helpful, because that's our job here, is to inform and put every dime online in real time. That's our motto.
I will say this, Rachel. Sometimes when I go to open the books, I have to have a stiff drink with me. I'm just me. It's just me. That's all I'm saying. Rachel, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate all the help and information. Take care. Be well.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Hey, our thanks to Rachel O'Brien, the Deputy Public Policy Editor, investigative journalist for openthebooks.com. And thank you for joining us. May God bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you. May he be gracious unto you and give you peace. Take care. God bless.